going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. I also just posted an album review of Highwire's new record, Different Places, which you should go check out. It's kind of a mix of old school pop punk and new school pop punk. So I feel like this is kind of right up everybody's alley. If you're checking out this review, you should definitely go check out that one. We will also be doing Blind Wish's new record, as well as Alaska's new record as well. So be on the lookout for that. Alaska is, I think, on the same level as a label as Across the Atlantic. So I'm excited to do both of those. And then Novelist, also on Sharp Tones, that will be going out the following week. So definitely check back with the channel for more content like this, and make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up. It really does go a long way, and thank you guys for your tremendous support. So tonight we're going to be talking about Across the Atlantic's new record, Works of Progress.
Waiting for your expectations at my door. I can't ever seem to prove my word to you.
So I've heard about this band for a little bit, not too long. I know that they signed with Sharp Tones, and that was when I kind of remember what they were. But I found them on Collapse Studios, Sam Link's music company. He does like music videos and stuff, and I checked out one of their songs and I thought, oh well, they sound really good. And I didn't think that I didn't think they were gonna get signed so soon, but I'm definitely stoked for them. I feel like they are one of those forefronting bands that I'm excited for a lot of people to check out. I wasn't really honestly keen on a lot of the sort of singles. I felt like Sundress, Funeral was probably my favorite. 24 Hours was probably a close second, or they're kind of interchangeable, honestly. But I felt like the weakest one that they've released so far is Playing for Keeps. But I'll get through all the tracks, give you my thoughts and opinions on it. I'm going to give some pros and cons, and then I'm going to give this album an overall rating. So we're going to get into the first track, which is called Prelude. Obviously, it's an intro track. It has this cool little piano part in it as well, and just a bit of vocals towards the end of the intro of the song, which I thought was really cool. It doesn't really have too much substance, so I really can't talk too much on that one. So we're going to move into track number 2, which is Playing for Keeps. Right off the bat, I definitely am hearkening back to A Day to Remember's Homesick, and also maybe What Separates Me From You as well, and that sort of vibe too. Speaking about vibes, this band also kind of reminds me mentally of City Lights and Chung No Captain Chung. I'd say more along the lines of City Lights. They have a little bit more of a lighter, easy chord tone to them as well. I like the gang vocals throughout the track. I feel like they're nice little touches throughout. The harmonies of the screams and cleans in the chorus are definitely a cool addition as well, and I feel like they should utilize it a little bit more, honestly. They do it a little bit throughout this record, but to me, I feel like they utilize it the best in this song. I feel like there's a strong emphasis on cleans throughout this one. I'd say kind of an 80-20, 80% cleans, 20% screams. And I would say that to me, the cleans are really solid. I do like them. The screams, I would say, are a little bit better, I think, edge-wise, but it kind of teeters back and forth throughout this record. I feel like there are some moments where I think the cleans sound a lot better, and there's some moments where I feel like the screams sound much better. So I think it's kind of a back and forth, but ultimately in this track I feel like the cleans are solid, and I definitely feel like it's a cool sort of opener track. Obviously the prelude doesn't really offer too much, so I felt like this one is kind of the real opener track of the record. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is Sundress Funeral. This is one of the singles that they released. I think it was the second one that they released after 24 Hours. I like this cool sort of ukulele intro with the vocals. I felt like that was a nice little touch as well. The harmonies and pre-chorus are really solid as well. This one is catchy and just offers a bit more of a high energy sort of attitude to this track, in my opinion. I like how the leads permeate throughout the track. I feel like this is a strong point in this one, and this one just has a memorability to it. Not much like Playing for Keeps, but to me, I feel like this one has a really solid way to go about it, and I like the energy of this track as well. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is Cutting Corners. I honestly don't think this track has too much to offer, in my opinion. I've listened to it about 4 or 5 times, maybe even more than that. That's just this album in general. Before I kind of write down my thoughts on it and kind of my first impressions of it. And it just has just a straightforward approach to it, which could be good or bad. But in this case, to me, it just doesn't have that sort of pop. It doesn't have that sort of just interesting aspect about the track that makes me want to go back and listen to it. Like Sundress Funeral has that cool little ukulele intro that is memorable and something that I can go back to and be like, that's why I like this track. But it's just missing some interesting aspects that would make this track feel much better. I feel like it's a little bit lackluster in that regard, and it definitely is one of the weaker tracks off the record, in my opinion. Not to say that it's not a good song. I just feel like there's no sort of pizzazz to it, in my opinion. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is "Real Friends," much like the band name. But I feel like the chorus feels a bit flat, in my opinion. It could use a little bit more melody or harmonies. I feel like this would have made the track have that sort of pop and sort of pizzazz, like I was talking about earlier in Cutting Corners. I feel like this one just composition wise it a lot better, in my opinion. I feel like the chorus definitely takes this track to a little bit of a better level. But I definitely feel like it would have added a little bit more punch to the track as well. Liking the back and forth vocally in the bridge and the breakdown, I felt like was a nice, cool little addition as well. And I like how they kind of reconciled what I was talking about earlier, with the sort of melodies and the different sort of harmonies. They kind of do it on the last chorus of this track, which I feel like they rectified the situation a little bit. I feel like it's a little bit too late. I feel like, to me, if they did it on the first sort of chorus, just right off the bat. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Chin Up. This one is one of my favorites as well. I feel like this track has a lot of different things going for it, but still, I feel like it's awesome. It's definitely different from the rest, like I've been mentioning, but it's a change of pace that I really have come to enjoy, listening through this record a few times. The instruments have this great sort of power to it, honestly, and it's just original to me. I felt like a lot of the other tracks were kind of jacking the style of a lot of other bands. Not to say that, they are, but in my opinion, this one felt like the most original sort of interesting track so far on the record. And to me, I feel like this is where the album kind of picks up and takes a different form, in the best way possible. I definitely feel like it's the best track so far off the record, up until this point. I like how they experimented with this one. I feel like, to me, it paid off. It may not pay off with a lot of people, but in my opinion, I feel like the change of pace was necessary, and it's really done executed very well, and the gang vocals and just the layerings just add a nice depth to the track. And to me, overall, just structurally, compared to a lot of these other tracks that they have throughout the record, I feel like this one just feels the most, I don't know, it feels the most genuine, it feels the most real. And I like how this sort of back half of the album is really kind of playing up to be really some of the best tracks, off the record, in my opinion. So we're gonna move into track number 7, which is 24 Hours. This is the first single that they released. The chorus has a very "A Day to Remember" inspired vibe to it as well. And the screams sound particularly good in this track. Like I've been mentioning, it's kind of a back and forth, but in this track, the screams definitely take the lead in this one. I feel like the leads could have been pulled up a little bit. Guitar leads could have been pulled up in this track, a bit, especially in the chorus. I feel like that is a cool little guitar lines that they came up with, just the melodies, and it feels kind of drowned out by the rhythm guitar, the bass, the drums, and just the vocals. And it kind of needs a little bit of, like, a little bit more push to it, and I feel like it would have been a lot better. Definitely amongst the heavier tracks off the record, in my opinion. And overall, really enjoyed this one. I think it was a good single to start off with. It's definitely giving the listener an idea of kind of the mix. If you listen to all three of the singles, you'll kind of get an idea of what most of the record will sound like, in my opinion, at least. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is "Word of Mouth." This is another favorite of mine. I feel like this one is more in the sort of metalcore direction, in my opinion, but it's definitely really great as well. The breakdown is absolutely sick, in my opinion, and this track primarily focuses on the screams, but the chorus sounds really great, and kind of brings out the cleans in the most elegant way possible, and is absolutely one of the heaviest tracks off the record, in my opinion. And it just feels fast paced, aggressive, and it's just a different side of the band. Like I mentioned, they have songs that kind of range from like easy core to like pop punk, much like For the Win, who just released a record pretty recently. I would kind of attribute their sound to that as well, which is also attributed to A Day to Remember. But this one was a really solid one. If you're looking for a heavier track, look no further than this one as well. So we're going to move into track number 9, which is Selfless. This one is a favorite of mine as well, continuing the trend of favorites, but also blends this sort of melodic and heavy parts together. The chorus is super catchy in my opinion, and just loving the harmonies in this one. I feel like that one kind of as the standout sort of piece in this track. It definitely feels like the focal point of the whole track in general, and really enjoyed the breakdown. I feel like it was executed very well, and probably my favorite track vocally. The screams and cleans just sound the best on both ends, and it just executed very well. Like I mentioned, I feel like the latter half of these records are. I mean, the latter half of these songs are some of the best ones yet so far. So we're going to move into track number 10, which is Starting Over. This track starts off a bit slower, in my opinion, and softer, but I definitely feel like it picks up after the 40-second-ish mark. It's a really solid chorus in this one as well. But again, much like Cutting Corners, I feel like to me this doesn't have something that stands out to it. I would say that is a little bit. I would say it's a notch above Cutting Corners, just because of the sort of interesting intro that they had. But to me, again, it has something that just doesn't stand out to me, in my opinion. The cleans are really solid in this one, but it feels slow in comparison to a lot of the previous tracks. I feel like you're on that sort of high of just really great, sort of heavy, in your face, aggressive tracks, 24 hours, Word of Mouth, Selfless. I feel like those just kind of just have that sort of energy to it, and they kind of take a pit stop with this one, and obviously I'll talk about the next one in a minute, but to me they kind of take a pit stop, and I feel like it's a bit unnecessary in my opinion. But I feel like the last bit between 2 minutes and 40 seconds to the 3 minutes and 5 seconds really end the song nicely, and I feel like it kind of brings it back a little bit. I still think it is slightly above Cutting Corners, but not enough to be one of my favorites off the record. So we're going to move into track number 11, which is Blind Eyes. This one is a favorite of mine as well. Like I mentioned, bringing back the heavy in this track, loving the instrumentation a lot in this one. Super solid chorus. Again, the choruses have been really solid up until this point, maybe with the exclusion of a few, but so far they've all been really solid. Liking the usage of gang vocals again in this track, much like Word of Mouth, 24 Hours, and Selfless. This one is high energy, fast paced, and just in your face, and it just has that sort of aggressive tonality to it. Liking the addition of leads in the pre-chorus as well in this track, and it's definitely one of the heavier tracks off the record. I would say it's probably tied with Word of Mouth and maybe even 24 Hours, but I'd say Word of Mouth and Blind Eyes are probably the two heaviest off the record. So if you're looking for the heavier tracks, look no further than those two. So we're going to move into track number 12, which is the title track, Works of Progress. It's a nice little acoustic track to end off the record with. I feel like vocally it is a great performance from their lead singer. The track just leads into this sort of anthematic ending at the end of the song, or maybe like 3/4 of the way through the song. But I think it's always a great look on bands' parts to do this. I feel like it adds another dimension to their arsenal. And then if they ever decide to do an acoustic record, I feel like it will kind of give you an idea of how, how the songs will be arranged, how it will sound, and obviously within reason. But I really like that the inclusion of orchestral elements towards the end of the track were a really nice touch. And overall, I feel like it's a great way to kind of round off the record in general. So we'll move it into track number 13, which is kind of a bonus track that they added on to the record, which is a cover of Perfect by One Direction. I definitely feel like they made this cover their own, and it actually is listenable. I'm not remotely a fan of One Direction, obviously, as I like alternative music, but I feel like this one is more listenable than the real one, and it is arranged well and just executed very well. They kept true to their sound, and it's a great sort of addition to, if you don't know a lot about, this sort of style of music, it's a great sort of gateway to, great bands that, maybe you would have never checked out if you didn't listen to a cover song. So this one's up on their YouTube page, I'm almost positive, and you can check that one out right now if you want to. So some pros and cons of this record. Pros, I feel like vocally it's really solid. I think it's solid in a lot of tracks. I wouldn't say all of them, but I would say in most of the album, vocally, it's really solid on both ends, both cleans and screams. I feel like they kind of executed it very well. I would say the latter half of the record sounds much better than the first half, in my opinion, at least. And some of the tracks just feel a little bit close to, other bands, like A Day to Remember, For the Win, Chunk No Captain Chunk, and a whole host of other bands that kind of fall in that sort of genre. City Lights, that was another one. But to me, some of the more interesting tracks like Blind Eyes and Word of Mouth and Selfless were interesting, and I feel like if they continue down that path of the sort of heavier tracks, that would work really well. And then even tracks like maybe even like Sundress Funeral, I feel like to me are sort of standout tracks, and if they continue in that sort of direction, I could definitely enjoy listening to them. But I feel like to me, this record was kind of a roller coaster ride. There are some tracks where you're on a great high. There are a few tracks where you're just, up at the top, and you got some really great tracks on the way. And then there's some tracks that kind of fall through the cracks, like Cutting Corners and Starting Over. And even like the acoustic track, I feel like it's a solid one, but it's definitely, kind of a little bit of a lull in the track. I felt like the inclusion of the cover was really nice as well. I feel like a lot of bands do that, but they did that very well, and they executed it very well, in my opinion. But overall, I feel like if you enjoy easycore, if you enjoy pop punk, this one's right up your alley. If you like, A Day to Remember, Homesick, and kind of What Separates You From Me. It kind of feels like a baby between those two albums. This is what it would sound like. But to me, I feel like it's a solid sort of. I guess it's their first album. I have no idea. I really didn't do a lot of research on this band, but I would assume it's their first record. Obviously, their first record on Sharp Tone's record. If you enjoyed this band, definitely go pick it up. Go support these guys. I feel like it's a record that a lot of people will like. But there's also, some tracks that I feel like to me just didn't strike me, and that's what music's about. So there's some tracks that people like, and there's some people tracks that I don't like. So I feel like it balances out, but overall, really solid sort of first record from these guys. So my overall rating for Across the Atlantic's Works of Progress, I'm going to be giving it an 8.6 out of 10. I think it's one you should check out, like I mentioned. If you liked any of the bands that I mentioned previously as well, I feel like this album will be for you as well too. So definitely check those out. Links will be in the description if you enjoy this band. I would highly recommend picking it up for not only to support their music, but also just first week sales means a lot to bands, and especially new bands to a label. You should definitely go check them out if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the singles, or if you have the album already, let me know about that too. Do you think my assessment's right? Do you think it's wrong? I'd love to have a conversation about it in the comments section below. So if you enjoy what you saw, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit that thumbs up. We got a lot of awesome big things in the works, and I'm really, really kind of excited to share it with you. I've been holding it back, but I'm excited to kind of get it out there, and I'm excited for you guys to check it out as well. And just overall, thank you guys for your tremendous support. We're almost at 100,000 views, which again blows my mind, and I can't be more grateful for any person that checks out a review, an interview, or anything else we do. We really got a lot coming down the pipeline, and I'm excited for you guys to check out new stuff as well. So my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.